Can the RTX 5070 Ti deliver a pleasant full ray tracing experience in games when paired with a 1440p monitor? Let's find out. We'll take a look at 3 games. Each one represents something different. For example, Cyberpunk 2077 represents an older title that still has full ray tracing features. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is one of the most recent titles, and it is extremely VRAM hungry. And Alan Wake 2 is one of the most GPU-demanding games to date. To test this, I paired the MSI Gaming Trio OC Plus version of the 5070 Ti with the Ryzen 7 9800X3D CPU as part of the Be Quiet PC build powered by MSI. And we'll be experiencing these games today on one of the best monitors for the job. This is MSI 271QRX 360Hz 1440p QD OLED panel. If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon and the links in the description below. Let's start with Cyberpunk 2077 at the highest ray tracing quality preset, Overdrive. This is what NVIDIA calls full ray tracing preset nowadays, which includes path tracing. The resolution is set to 1440p and we'll start with native resolution, and then we'll take a look at DLSS resolution upscaling. Field of view is set to 100, and I'll turn off all these nasty things, film grain, motion blur, and whatnot. I'm sure that some of you will be surprised to see such a performance using the 5070 Ti in, a relatively old game in 2025. Cyberpunk 2077 has been around for a while, and we're getting 30 plus FPS at 1440p. Of course, that is exclusively because path tracing is extremely GPU demanding, and the new RTX 50 series graphics cards didn't bring that much of ray tracing uplift compared to RTX 40 series, for example. Yeah, it is unfortunate, but it is the way it is. That's why we're here, taking a look at this particular scenario, because I want to know, how much money do we have to spend to have a good time with full ray tracing enabled in all of our favorite games in 2025? And it appears that 700 plus and sometimes even 800 plus dollars spent on the 5070 Ti is simply not enough. At least that is the case at native 1440p resolution. Let's select DLSS quality mode and see if that helps. And this is actually pretty good, although we can't stay above 60 FPS at all times. I've seen some dips below 60 every now and then, like right now, 56, 54, 53 FPS was the lowest number I've seen right now, and this isn't even the most graphically demanding area in the game. There are some scenes that will bring you closer to 50 FPS. I'm not impressed, I must say. Although DLSS 4 quality mode looks very nice on the 27-inch 1440p display, so I don't have any issues using DLSS resolution upscaling to boost FPS. This is a good way to enjoy the game. It looks nice, feels nice. It's just that I really expected a little bit more image fluidity out of the 5070 Ti. We can improve image fluidity by using frame generation. Let's go ahead and do that. We have 3 frame generation options: 2x, 3x, and 4x. My favorite is 2x. This is the one that generates 1 frame per every real frame. 3x generates 2 frames, 4x 3 frames. Let's start with 2x. Right, this is a much more pleasant experience now. We're getting close to 100 FPS, and the controls feel responsive. Frame generation 2x mode is my favorite. I use it a lot actually when I'm playing games. Next up is 3x frame generation mode. Our frame rate is climbing higher and higher, but with every additional generated frame, the image quality is getting slightly worse, amplifying some of the imperfections introduced by DLSS. That's why I think that 2x mode is the best. However, if you have a high refresh rate monitor, then you might want to try 3x and 4x just to see what it feels like, because the image fluidity is definitely much better with 3x compared to 2x. Yeah, just take a look at that, 160 FPS. And with the 4x mode, you can increase that even further. The GPU is now generating 190 FPS. Oh, 200 now. Okay. This is still a pretty good experience, both in terms of quality as well as controls responsiveness. Although I always tend to not like when there is like a huge gap between how many real frames we get and how many frames we actually see. My brain just doesn't comprehend. I mean, I see an extremely smooth image, but when I start moving the mouse, it doesn't feel as nice as when I would have real 120 FPS, for example. Personally, I will stick to the 2x frame generation, but it's good to have options. Let's turn off frame generation once more and take a look at the lower resolution upscaling quality. Let's select balanced and see if that looks nice and what the performance is like. This might be the better way to enjoy this game with full ray tracing enabled, because now we're getting well above 60 FPS consistently. 69, nice. Although we are sacrificing a little bit of detail in those finer objects, such as foliage. It is especially noticeable if you have good eyesight and you are looking further away into the distance. But if you're focusing on what is closer to you when you're gaming, then it's not an issue. Near objects still look very nice. I think there's another, better way to improve our experience in this game. Instead of going for the Ray Tracing Overdrive preset, let's select Ray Tracing Ultra, and we'll go straight for DLSS Quality mode. Ray Reconstruction enabled, and all of these things turned off. Motion blur, film grain, all of that stuff has to go. With this preset, path tracing is disabled, but other nice things that ray tracing brings, such as reflections, shadows, and lighting, they're still enabled. And just take a look at the difference it brings. Yes, this feels very nice indeed. 80 plus FPS. Oh, beautiful. And we still have pretty much all ray tracing features that I value the most. The lighting, the shadows, everything looks beautiful. And even reflections, they still look good enough. Of course, they don't look as crisp as they do when we're using path tracing, but damn. Thanks to the high FPS, this experience is definitely much better. If I were playing this game using the 5070 Ti, then this is the set of settings that I would choose. Definitely, yes, this is it. It feels nice, and we still have a lot of headroom in terms of performance if we encounter a difficult to render scene. We have like 90 FPS. It might drop to around 60-ish, which is still very nice. I just have to know what kind of experience we can get with the 4x frame generation mode using this set of settings, because if we'll get something like 300, yeah, I'll be very happy with that. And while it's not a 300 per se, still 240 plus FPS experience is pretty much guaranteed, because sometimes we see 260, sometimes 250, but from time to time it drops to 230. Oh my, the image fluidity is just insane. Oh, yeah, that's one of the benefits of having that multi-frame generation technology, is that you can actually max out your high refresh rate monitor in single player games such as this one right here with high graphics quality settings enabled. That is something that I don't think we'll ever be able to do. Well, not ever, but within the next 5 to 10 years, definitely not. However, I still think that frame generation is best enjoyed at 2x. This is still a very much high-end, high refresh rate experience, 140 FPS, 150. Let's jump into the Quadro just to take it out for a spin. See if it will feel nice. Yes. Oh yes, the image fluidity is good. But yeah, this experience is absolutely beautiful. This is the set of settings that I would use. Next up is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Let's take a look at the settings. We are at 1440p, field of view is at 100, and we are using the highest graphics quality preset, Supreme. Ray tracing is set to the maximum, full ray tracing, and we are using DLAA, which basically means native resolution with anti-aliasing. But we'll take a look at DLSS resolution upscaling as well as frame generation later on. With this set of settings, we are once again experiencing 30 plus FPS, and yeah, that is not great. Although this is one of the most GPU demanding levels in the game. Let's take a look at the other one. In other locations, you can expect a significantly higher frame rate. We're currently at 40 plus, sometimes reaching 50, so it's not too bad. But I still want to see at least 60 FPS consistently in this game, so we'll have to make some adjustments. The obvious thing to do is just enable DLSS resolution upscaling, set it to quality mode, and enjoy the beautiful 80 plus FPS experience. Sometimes 90 plus. Very nice indeed. But that is not quite enough to deliver a 60 plus FPS experience in the jungle level. Yeah, we're getting dips below 50 from time to time. So what we can do is lower ray tracing quality a little bit to see if we can get to that 60 plus FPS experience in the first level, and then once we're done with the jungle level, we can bring it back up to full ray tracing. Let's see if the high preset is enough to achieve that. And not quite. The performance difference is minimal. We'll have to make further adjustments to the ray tracing preset. Let's select medium. And this is it. 60 plus FPS in the jungle. We're still getting good quality shadows and lighting. So this is pretty good. And after we're done with this level, we have two options. We can either keep this ray tracing preset and enjoy higher frame rates, or bring it back up to full ray tracing preset, but then you won't experience the 100 plus FPS in other levels of the game. So it's basically up to you. You have options, which is always nice. Personally, I think that full ray tracing looks better in this game. If we don't enable full ray tracing, we're not getting beautiful reflections. These reflections that are produced by the medium ray tracing preset, they look very weak. They don't look realistic at all. For contrast, let's bring the ray tracing preset back up to full ray tracing. And take a look at the same stand. Yes, the transparency now works well, and reflections work as they should. So this looks more like real life and less like video game. And let's take a look at the VRAM usage, shall we? With this configuration of settings in this level, we're using 14 gigabytes of memory, so we still have just below 2 gigabytes available to us. But then in the jungle section of the game, we're using slightly above 14 gigabytes, 14.6. And that is without enabling frame generation, which will require even more memory to run. Now let's enable frame generation to max out that memory completely and see if 16 gigabytes on the 5070 Ti is actually enough. And then in other locations where we did get above 60 FPS, frame generation feels very nice indeed. The mouse responsiveness is great. Yes, this is a beautiful experience, nice and fluid. Frame generation 2x mode is the best, for sure. Take a look at that, 140 FPS. You don't really need any more than that for a smooth gaming experience in a single-player game. But just out of curiosity, let's select the maximum frame generation 4x mode to see what happens. And what happens is a consistent 240 plus FPS experience. Although once more, I must admit that I don't quite like how the mouse movement feels with so many frames generated. Yeah, it's just not as nice. I still prefer the 2x mode. Let's wrap things up with Alan Wake 2, which is the most GPU demanding title out of the bunch. And just to get a good reading of the baseline, let's do native resolution, 1440p, no frame generation, no DLSS, high graphics quality preset, and absolutely maxed out ray tracing, that is ray tracing ultra preset. And this is what I was talking about. Take a look at this, 20 plus FPS. This is the lowest number we've seen so far, and yeah. Obviously, this is not a good way to play this game. It is not pleasant at all. Let's see what happens if we disable ray tracing completely in this particular scene. We're getting 60 plus FPS even without ray tracing enabled. So yeah, basically enabling ray tracing will push us way below this target, and that's just Alan Wake 2 for you, but more demanding games like this one here are coming. That is for sure. It is a definite certainty, so we have to test it. Why not? Let's enable Ray Tracing Ultra once more and see if DLSS resolution upscaling can help us. Let's select DLSS Quality mode. This isn't too bad, but we're still getting dips below 40. However, this is just one level in the game. You will have to spend a lot of time here, but you will have to spend a lot more time in other type of locations. So let's take a look at that scenario. We're getting 60 plus FPS indoors. This is pretty good, which means that you can pretty much run this game with full ray tracing enabled, maxed out, with the help of DLSS quality mode in pretty much all locations with the exception of the forest. And then once you enter the forest, just turn off ray tracing and enjoy the game without ray tracing there, and turn it back on once you left the forest. It is a little bit of a hustle, but if you want to enjoy this game properly, then that's the way you'll have to do it with the 5070 Ti over here. Because, yeah, unless you have the RTX 5090, then there's just no chance at all. I'm actually pleased to see that we can enjoy this game with DLSS set to quality and maxed out settings. I'm enjoying it, and yeah, my favorite thing is looking at this lake. Oh, thanks to ray tracing, the lake is realistic, it has great reflections, just like in real life, and that brings the immersion to the next level. Yeah, this game just doesn't feel the same with the ray tracing disabled. And of course, you have the option to enable frame generation 2x, 3x, and 4x. I always go for 2x. That way the image quality is preserved and the fluidity is amazing. Yeah, this is the way to go. For this game, this is the set of settings that I would use. 120 plus FPS experience, full ray tracing, DLSS quality. Nice. In conclusion, the RTX 5070 Ti appears to be the perfect option for those of you who really want to enjoy full ray tracing experience on a 1440p monitor, because it can do it in pretty much any game, but you do need the help of DLSS. And in the most GPU demanding games, such as Alan Wake 2, in some levels, such as The Forest, as you've seen, you do have to disable ray tracing completely. But in the rest of the game, you can still use full ray tracing on the 5070 Ti. I very much enjoyed my time with the 5070 Ti at 1440p, and I highly recommend it. It has 16 gigabytes of memory, which is what you want for 1440p gaming nowadays. 12 gigabytes is still okay, but it's not okay if you want to play your games with ray tracing enabled and frame generation enabled and the graphics settings maxed out. It's just not happening. 12 gigabytes is not enough for that. Let me know, what do you think about this combo? Do you like it or not? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to reward my work with a like and subscribe for more videos like this if you haven't already. If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, then you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.